It's Nick with Med School Mastery, and today I'm going to answer a quick question that I keep getting all the time, which is how long should you be studying for the MCAT? So to answer this question, first of all, I'm going to say that it should be 3 to 6 months, but I want to break this down a little further. So if you don't mind sticking with me, I think that it depends a lot about what you have going on and what kind of resources you're using. So to begin, using this time frame, I think it's important to recognize that more time doesn't always mean better. So for the MCAT in particular, you are going to be sort of expected to memorize things about, the citric acid cycle or glycolysis or some things that just take brute memorization. And so those sorts of things are probably not going to be able to stick around in your mind that long. And so this is why I advise against people that want to start really early. I remember some of my peers, they were beginning a year or more in advance, and they didn't get largely better results because of that. And it's because you lose so much as the time goes on. So it's important to definitely have a focused time period where you're focusing just on that, and that will help you to make sure that the stuff remains fresh in your brain. So in addition, the other part of this is that it is a stressful, long process, and I worry about people getting too burnt out throughout the process, and that's another reason why you don't want to be spending too much time on this. Some people that start really early on, they start to they first of all, they feel like they have an abundance of time if they're starting very early, and that means that they tend to be less efficient with their time. Whereas if you start later and you feel a little more under the gun, you're going to be more on top of yourself. You're not going to feel like you can take that break to go onto Facebook or on Instagram. If you give yourself a little bit of a time crunch, it forces you to feel sort of pressured to stay focused and to not let yourself take those breaks. So that's one part of this, but also, it's just tough to be inside studying all the time when your friends are outside having a lot of fun. If it's like your summer break and you should be, spending time with your family and with your friends. So these are important things to take into consideration, and more reasons why you should not spend any longer than 6 months or 5 months on this. But it is important to spend enough time on this. So that's why I would say 3 months or so is about the lower end of how much time you can spend. I used to say, 2 to 3 months, and that was partially applicable to when the MCAT had less material on it, but now that it has some more material on it, about 3 months or so should be the minimum, and that's because there's a lot of material to cover. Secondly, it's all about doing questions and taking practice tests, and those take time, and those aren't things you can do over and over. It was hard for me to take more than one a week because they're very exhausting to take a full-length practice test. So those are just some things to keep in mind. So regarding the resources that you are using, there are several books out there, but it's important to take several passes through those books, because the first time through, some things are going to stick, but the way that I looked at it was sort of the first pass through being identifying my areas of weakness, and then the second and third passes through being just focusing on those areas of weakness and just drilling down exactly only on those areas, because so many people get caught up in just covering everything all the time, and if they already know 60 or 70% of it from their coursework, they're just wasting 60 or 70% of their time going back over those things that are already solid in their mind. So make sure that you are focusing just on the stuff that is in your weak spots, and that will have bigger payouts for you. The other thing to keep in mind is how much you have going on in your life outside of studying. So this was something that was big for me, was that I was taking classes at the same time, and probably a lot of you will be in a similar circumstance. And so I tried to make sure I had an easy class load during that period. If I did have to take some science courses, I made sure they were applicable, that they were also preparing me for this. But aside from that, I kind of pulled back on my involvements with my extracurriculars, like my clubs, and I really just made it so that outside of class, all I really had to do was just focus on that. So I would suggest you use something similar. Try to give yourself, a light coursework, and try to, pull back from your responsibilities outside of studying for the MCAT, and that will really have big payouts for you. So those are all my thoughts on this that I want to put into this video. I've written a lot more, and there's a lot more recorded from all of our materials inside the Pre-Med BootCamp, which you can always find at medschoolmastery.com. Otherwise, feel free to check out our book and our other resources there, and I look forward to seeing you over there. All right, take care.